is tools for student collaboration. And the idea behind the session is to collaborate within the session with the participants, where everybody collaborates with everybody, and they learn how to create collaborative tasks for their students using various tools such as Google Drive, Google Docs, slides, forms, and then adding audio or what's called add-ons to their docs, Google Slides, and Google Forms, as well as using Jamboards, curation tools such as Miro, idea boards, Mural, concept board, Padlet, or Wakelet. They choose the tool that they want. VoiceThread, Nearpod, Edpuzzle, Quizlet, Kahoot, Voki, screen recorders such as Flip, Vimeo, Screencast-O-Matic, which is now called ScreenPal, Loom, Edpuzzle, and using Canva to also create presentations, Book Creator, VideoAnt, which is a way of annotating videos, YouTube videos, Aminote for text annotations, Anoto for video annotations and social engagement through videos, and other tools to enhance student collaboration. The presenters or moderators, there were two of us. Maria from Greece. There were 66 participants from 38 countries. The engagement was absolutely amazing. Also the bonding through Go Brunch was also very, very engaging and heartwarming, because we could connect as teachers and discuss different things, as well as share our experiences and how we use collaboration. From 38 countries, you can see the countries. 5 participants completed all the activities. Many did partial activities and received their badges. They introduced themselves using Voki. They also reflected using Voki. They got acquainted with Padlet maps. In week 2, we used Quizlet. I have a pro or premium Quizlet, so I can add everyone and they get a pro when they're added to my Quizlet class. I created a class for students for student collaboration, and they were able to use that. They chose a debate topic. They worked either in teams or individually. It was up to them, or both. Some of them worked alone and with others. In week 3, we used Google Slides. In week 1, we used, week 2, sorry, we used Word Doc, and then we used Google Slides. They created slides not just through Google, they also used Canva, and they shared a Canva class with each other and with their students. They also, most of them were able to use all the tools during their courses. There were teachers from young learners to adult learners, and it was nice for them to share how things worked. In week 4, we used Google Forms, and they published their work and got feedback for the quality of their presentations. They only used images for their presentations for the for and against in the debate topic of their choice. They had a lot of fun with the debate topics, even though some of the debate topics seemed kind of childish at first, but they got into them. I mean, they could choose from 50 debate topics, and they chose even the ones that I thought would be for young learners. They chose them. So some of the topics were for young learners, some were for adult learners, and they had a choice. In week 5, they created a collaborative book to show all their work. And there was course reflection. They reflected on what they felt the session was about. They first had to describe it. And then on the process, they shared how they found the process. They also had to reflect through a journal for each week. And they also shared what they thought they would do with what they learned and the practical aspect of the course or session in the future. Then they filled in the feedback forms. These were some of the slides that we used. Nevis mentioned Slides Mania. There are other free slides that are quite good. I personally prefer Canva, but they could choose from any of these. Genially is quite popular, eMaze, AHA Slides, Google Slides, Nearpod, Slides Carnival, and of course, Slides Mania. If you're not familiar with these, you can get this presentation, click on them and share them. They also chose their own curation board so they can keep track of the work that they were doing with the tools and implementing the tools in their classes. These are some of the tools. Moodle also has a board called Boards that they could use as well. So you can see some of the curation boards that they used. Some of them tried to use, they had to use one for each week as a reflected in weeks 1 to 4 on their work. Some of them use things like Scoop It. They tried different curation boards instead of using just one all the time. Most teachers are familiar with Padlet. Wakelet is quite popular, but Mural and Miro and Pinterest, Scoop It, eLink, Diego, which is quite old, are not as popular. Idea boards is great, by the way, because you don't have to, you can use it for debates and different things. Just Google it, idea boards. Your students don't even need to create an account. You don't need to create an account. You can simply create a board and have your students add to it for and against debates and other things. And it's completely free. These were the badges for each of the weeks that participants got and the final certificate. So that's about it. I'll leave it to you to ask questions with whatever was left out, and there was a lot left out. So
okay,
question.
Thank you, Nellie. There was a question in the chat about your Quizlet class.
Yes.
Andrea asks if people can join your Quizlet class.
Yes, of course. That was the idea, to join. And this way they didn't have all the ads. And they could add their work to the Quizlet class.
Okay. And a comment from Elizabeth about Evernote, how it's difficult sometimes to get it work on individual computer.
Actually, it's not. However, if you are having problems, their support system is amazing. So if you try to use it and you run into trouble and they ask for your feedback and you add a sad face, they will contact you right away.
So Elizabeth, add a sad face.
And they're very interested in promoting it. It's completely free for teachers. You can use it in Moodle or as a plugin, or you can use it outside of Moodle. So it doesn't only have to be in Moodle, but it's a great way for students. They can even use their voice to collaborate, not only by text as they annotate.
Okay, there is
and teachers can grade them, which is great. Teachers can grade them.
The comments, the conversation in Evernote. You can access it as a teacher later. Is that what you're saying?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, Evernote. You just write down Evernote in your browser and you'll be able to access it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. There is a comment from Elizabeth. She says, did you know that next to the emoji happy face, there are 3 dots and you can download the chat conversation to read later? I didn't know that.
Is she talking about Zoom?
I don't know. Elizabeth?
Please, Elizabeth, can you unmute yourself and
tell us about that?
Yes, right here in the chat box, that there's the little emoji, the happy face. Next to it, there are 3 dots. If you click on that, you save chat, and then you can read it later.
Yeah, of
Uh-huh.
course. Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody
Elise.
who didn't know, because
thank
sometimes
you.
it's hard to keep up with the chat.
Yes,
Yes,
a
of
lot
course.
going on.
Of course. And there are
Exactly.
lots of links there.
It's
Thank you,
fun.
Elizabeth. Yes, that's right.
Links and
Just thought I'd let-
presentation. Yeah, thank you.
That's what I do so that I can go back to it later, because otherwise I don't have time to do everything.
Very useful. Thank you.
Yes, thank
You're very
you.
welcome.
Nellie, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So you said, if I remember correctly, there were 66 participants in this session. You had more participants in another session, but in this particular one, the collaboration and the group spirit, the online learning community was much stronger.
Yep.
What,
Yep.
if anything, if you have any insight, what do you attribute that to?
That's a great question, Christine. I think it depends on the participants, tell you the truth, because as EVO moderators, we do a lot to engage them in practical activities where they create. They're the content creators. We've created a platform for them and everything. I think that it's up to there are some participants who are passionate and they're eager to learn, and they're the ones that connect others. If they're not, it's very hard. But if you're asking how do you get them to collaborate, I think it's peer learning.
Yeah, no,
If
it wasn't so much a question of,
those
Yeah.
that start, finish. The problem with the sessions this year and last year, right after COVID, during COVID, a lot of participants joined, started, and ended. For the past 2 years, they join, they register, they never start.
yeah, we saw the same in our session.
They never start. So
But I
these
think it was
five,
the same in others.
these, I think about 11, not even 11, I think maybe 6 started. I mean, really started, and 5 completed. Because if they start, if they give themselves a chance, if they really need it, in many cases, they're just looking for, something that's free. Oh, wonderful. This is free. It's like, we're giving free candy, I don't know, candies. Okay. Free candies. Even if you don't like candies, or if you're worried about your teeth, you're going to take those candies and you'll maybe give them to somebody else, but you'll take the free. The question is, will you commit? Will you eat that candy, so to speak? And in many cases, they won't. They don't even start. So, you take it and you leave it. You just, and I kept contacting them from the beginning, in the first week. We've started encouraging them, sending them constant emails, because we get a progress bar where you can see if they started or not. So if you see that it's all blue, or with no V's, sometimes it's the V, but if it's all dark blue, not the royal blue, not the light blue. If you see that the royal blue is all royal blue, they've never started, it's 0% progress. You contact them, because it allows you to contact them through that. And you get no response. Then you know that there's something wrong. Why are they not responding? Week 1, they haven't even started. So, we started on January 9 or 8. We started. Okay, so you're invited to join us. No comments.
Yeah, it's
Can you
it's
explain
not
that?
just in
Anybody explain it?
EVO, it's in the entire education world. This has been going on. It definitely in higher education, which I watch diligently. This disengagement seems to be pervasive, and yeah, nobody really knows what to attribute it to.
I
And
do.
we'll have to.
I expected it. I really expected it. I'll tell you
Yeah,
why.
sure.
And everybody's invited to
why?
unmute themselves. I'll tell you why I expected it. I saw what happened before COVID. Before COVID, we had a lot of participants in teaching EFL to young learners. Cheryl mentioned some of the countries, Vietnam. We had 600, 700, even before that. We had hundreds and hundreds of participants who started, and they got, well, if not to the end, they got pretty far. We never had, and then COVID hit, and teachers who were not familiar with technology stormed into EVO because they thought, well, we have to learn because we don't know anything, so help. So they came for help, and then they had to use Zoom, right? For a year and a half, for 2 years, they had to use Zoom. They got fed up with Zoom. They got Zoom, the Zoom flu. They were sick of Zoom and of the live virtual class. And they thought, well, we don't want to go there. So, okay, I can understand that. You don't want to go to Zoom. But what about the LMS? But nobody seems to have developed the LMS during COVID. Schools were using Zoom, instead of the face-to-face classrooms. So teachers had to be there for 8 hours. That's ridiculous. And hardly anybody was using an LMS. Why use an LMS? Who knew about an LMS? Maybe Google Classroom, if you're using Google at your school, but they were not familiar with Moodle or with Canvas. So there's something out there. So maybe we'll need to wait. I believe it's going to happen in maybe next year, maybe a year after that, when things settle and they don't have to use Zoom anymore for a while, because they're tired of the live virtual class, of the time, where you have to be there at a certain time. Who wants that? We want to touch one another. We want to sit next to each other. We don't want to be Zooming, right? That's my take on that.
Yeah, you mentioned something important about the LMS. This is actually the reason why I started with our session delivering best practices, because I felt that there was still so much to be learned. And this was before COVID, so much to be learned about LMSs and how to use them properly and for best practices. And unfortunately, I feel that even though a lot more people are using LMSs, they're still not being leveraged to the best potential that they can deliver.
Teachers are tired.
Yeah, that
You have
too.
to understand that. They're tired. Nevis, you can tell us about Italy, what happened in Italy. I mean, I've been keeping track of the world through, through my friends, my online friends. My friends, not online. I didn't mean it like that. I meant friends who are online and I don't see them face to face. But I've heard, Nevis, you can tell some of the stories from your country, from Italy, with the Zooming and what the horrible things they did to teachers in Italy during COVID. But other countries too, not just Italy.
Yeah, I believe similar things happened in every country in the world.
Yep.
I think one of the most important things to remember is that teachers were thrown into a situation that they were not ready for, right? So COVID apart, all of a sudden, it was just like teachers had to go from being in a classroom with maybe even having problems controlling those students, but then going online was totally like impactful in everything, because we had students that had no internet at home, students that had no computers at home, students that had no smart technology at all, to students that had it all. So we had a huge gap between those that did and those that didn't. Then we had teachers that were not used to even looking at themselves on a camera, and that made it worse because students weren't used to it. It was just a self-identity crisis happening, not only for the teachers but the students. All of a sudden they were looking at themselves that they were not used to doing in a classroom. Students face a teacher, so you get up to 30 students that are looking at one person, and the teacher is looking at all the students, but then because the teacher is talking and concentrating on what is going on, you don't really even notice all the faces. all of a sudden we went onto Zoom, and there it was. Everybody's face was there, and some students were in their bedrooms, some students were on their phones, some students were on a borrowed phone. And we had a lot of technology problems in the beginning. It took about 2 or 3 months. Once we got the technology happening and schools began to give out computers on loan or tablets on loan to be able to communicate, to be able to participate on the lessons, then we found we had another problem, that the students were not keen to talk, or were not keen to participate, or were demotivated because they were locked in their homes, in apartments that they couldn't move around, etc., because of the quarantine. So there are a lot of problems. As a result, we still today have a huge amount of students and teachers that are undergoing psychological treatments. That's here in Italy, of course. Someone else, over to someone else.
I think you make some great points, especially the fact that, that's it. Who wants to go online? If we went through so much hell, why would we want to expose ourselves to this again? So we'll sign up, because it's free, and then we'll disappear.
So, on the other hand, technology has so much to offer. So we will have to remember that it's quite normal that people feel like that, but we'll have to find ways to include it meaningfully into our future sessions and in our teaching.